Today I'm looking at an article by Imran Bacchus that appeared in the Mail and Guardian last week. In it, he congratulates some for challenging, in his words, the uncritical pro-West hysteria in the media. To explore this topic further, I'm absolutely delighted to have Gil Hoffman, Israeli-American journalist and political correspondent, who serves as Executive Director of Honest Reporting, as my guest now. Let's get into it. Gil, you've had a look at those articles. What is your thinking?
I was shocked to see that there are people who could still, with any credibility, accuse media of being biased in favor of Israel. Over the last 2 weeks, we've been in the middle of an organized campaign to falsely accuse Israel of purposely starving Gazan children. And even when it was proven false, it continued. And even when there were just as shocking pictures of Israelis being starved, who are being starved, the pictures of the Gazan children continued, and the pictures of the Israelis who are suffering didn't make the front pages of those same papers and media outlets. So that sounds like bias to me.
It is interesting you point out. The news of the video released of the Israeli hostage digging his own grave hasn't made much into South African media, but it is still early days. I'm not sure how it was covered internationally, if at all, but here, very little, if nothing.
Well, as anyone can see if they go to the Instagram or X Twitter account of Honest Reporting, you can see a comparison between what they reported about the Palestinian baby who was suffering from cerebral palsy from a condition that had nothing to do with the war. Those were on the front pages of the New York Times, very large, the LA Times, the Washington Post, NBC, CNN. None of those media outlets put the gaunt skeletal picture of Aviatar David on their front page shamelessly.
Without minimizing the suffering in Gaza and the fact that there is food shortages, that the food has become weaponized in a way by the other side against Israel, and while Israel's been accused of having of weaponizing food, there is real suffering, right? Why the need to kind of make it worse?
There were at times during this war among Israeli leaders considerations of if the people of Gaza would have less food coming in, then when it would start then coming in from a non-Hamas source, that would change the mindset. That would make the Gazan people realize they don't need to rely on Hamas anymore, that there's a new game in town, there's an American organized Gaza Humanitarian Foundation involved now, that will be not entirely orderly, obviously, but better than Hamas. It won't be stealing food, it'll be giving it out for free. And this is all part of trying to liberate the people of Gaza from Hamas, which has been in power for 17 years. The people of Gaza deserve better. I don't minimize their suffering. I believe that they've suffered from Hamas and that the world needs to unite in order to stop that, and I'm disappointed with the world for not doing it.
Let's look at media coverage the last 2 weeks. And if you say it's an orchestrated campaign, what can be done about that?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the purpose of that campaign. It's hard to remember, but 4 weeks ago, the President of the United States hosted the Prime Minister of Israel and said, yeah, a deal can be wrapped up within a week. And the components of that deal were that Israel would get first 10 of the remaining 20 live hostages home, and the negotiations would begin immediately on the other 10, with the goal of getting it done very quickly, ending the war. But Hamas didn't like it that Israel was releasing a number of terrorists that was not as large as they would like to see, They didn't like it that they wouldn't regain control over providing food to the people of Gaza, which, they steal, and that gives them the money to stay in power. And so they decided to start this campaign instead, which was very, very effective. The world media cooperated with this. Hamas emboldened their demands in the negotiations, and due to the irresponsible behavior of the international media, the 10 hostages that would have gone out are starving. People are starving because of the media, not in spite of the media, and now we know what they look like when they starve.
Again, what can be done to counter that narrative?
Thank you for reiterating the question. What needs to be done is, first of all, the world media needs to be pressured to be fair and balanced, and to have it in their face that this is what you did for the Palestinian side, even though it wasn't true. This is what you're not doing for the Israeli side, even though it is true. People should be highlighting these differences on their social media. You can share what we put out from Honest Reporting. There needs to be mounted pressure on the leaders of Western countries around the world to put their emphasis right now, with all due respect, on getting the hostages home, because that's the key to end the war, and not in rewarding Hamas with a Palestinian state. This is the worst time to do that. That'll encourage terror in every one of those countries. France, England, Canada. Islamic terrorism is about to be emboldened by their leadership. I don't count South Africa as a Western country, and their behavior throughout this war has been reprehensible.
So I suppose on one hand, South Africa wants to see itself as Western. On the other hand, it wants to also kind of encourage, and that's the article that we're looking at, kind of encouraging the media to kind of not give the so-called Western uh, narrative. So it can be very confusing in the media space.
I want to be careful because, just like Israelis don't want to be judged by Netanyahu and Americans don't want to be judged by President Trump, I'm not going to say South Africa and refer to your government. But I will say that your government has been extremely unhelpful throughout this war. It has emboldened Hamas. It has legitimized Hamas. It has legitimized murdering, raping, and kidnapping Jews. And it's reprehensible and shameful. I know that the people of South Africa, the ordinary people, not just the Jewish community, understand better that this is not how to handle the situation, and this is certainly not the way to get closer to the West, especially when the leader of the Western world right now, whether people like it or not, is Donald Trump, who certainly doesn't believe that emboldening Islamic terror is a good idea.
Gil, I have to agree with you. I don't think ordinary South Africans love Hamas nearly as much as our government does. But that is the narrative that is certainly being pushed by articles like the one we've seen in the Mail and Guardian. On that note, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure being with you, and may there be good, positive headlines in the future and a better day ahead for the people of Israel, the people of Gaza, and the Jewish community of South Africa as well.
Amen.